Question 4 is 10 marks. Goodness, that's a lot. Now let's look at how we can do this. This is pure math 1, alright? Edexcel International Paper. Now the question gave you this, I can't say nice. They give you this strange looking shape. Okay, and they say figure 1 shows a sketch of part of the curve C1 and C2. Given that C1 has equation y equal f of x, where f of x is a quadratic function. That's very important. Cuts the x-axis at the origin and x equal 4. Before we proceed, what does this mean? That means this function, the quadratic one, this one, right, has two zeros, has x equal 0 and x equal 4, right? What will this help me with? It will help me to know it looks like this. It looks like x and x minus 4, right? Because imagine if it was cutting the x-axis at minus 3, for example, we would have said it's x plus 3 and x minus 4, right? Because it's 0, it's just x and x minus 4. That's very good. Now has a minimum turning point at 2 and negative 4 over negative 4.2. Find f of x. That's very good. We almost did most of this question. Now knowing this part here is almost everything. Let's just rewrite it again. So we know our function f of x is going to look something like this: x and x minus 4. This is almost the answer, but there maybe have been some shift or some transformation. So I'll just assume there is a factor, or there is a constant of, let's just call it k. So this is the transformation or whatever happened to this function. So we need to find this k. How do you find it? They gave you the minimum point here. They told you the minimum point is 2 and negative 4.8, right? 2 and negative 4.8. Now I can just substitute these values here. F of x is y always, so the value of f of x is negative 4.8 is equal to k, and then the value of x is 2, so it's 2 minus 4. Now if you substitute here, if you just play with this, you can find the value of k. Why don't we write it down? Let's just write it down to solve it. Here, minus 4.8 is equal to k, 2 minus 4. I think that's what I wrote, right? Okay. But there is an x here, so it's another 2, so it's going to be k times 2 and then 2 minus 4, right? So it's 2k and 2 minus 4. Let's solve this now. First, 2 minus 4 is negative 2, so I'll divide both sides by negative 2 to cancel this part. So what's negative 4.8 divided by negative 2? It's just, I think, 2.4 equals 2k divide by 2, and that gives you k equals 1.2. That's perfect. Do you know, if you now just write k back, that's your answer. So your f of x, your function, is 1.2 x minus 4, and I think that's 4 marks or 3 marks. That's 3 marks. Good. Now let's look at the second one. Given that C2 has equation of y equals g of x, where g of x is a cubic function, okay, so it's cubic function, cuts the x-axis at the origin and meets the x-axis at x equal 4, passes through this point. Find g of x. Okay, let's just write that, 6 and 7.2. So this point here, where is 6 and 7.2? So what is the cubic? It's this one, yeah? Ding, 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 ding. Now this point here, I think, is 6.2, is it? No, passes through the points 6 and 7.2. Anyway, since it goes through the origin, and again, it passes through 4, does it? Yeah, it also goes through x. Let's do it down here. This is a nice question. We will just assume g of x is equal to, again, x, and then because it's cubic, it can be x minus 4 squared, because they say it's cubic. Why did I say x and x minus 4? It's the same idea of the quadratic. And similarly, there may be some transformation, so I'll just find some constant. Let's just call it a. We write it here. This finds the constant. To find it, we can use the point. They gave us some point. They told us it's 6 and 7.2, I think. Let me just double check. Yes, 6 and 7.2. Now what I will do is I will use the value y is 7.2, which is g of x. 7.2 equals a, and then times 6 times 6 minus 4 squared. Now let's find a. What I will do is I will divide by 6, and then 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. I'll just divide by 6 times 4, and that gives you a equals. So it's 7.2 divided by 24, isn't it? I'll just use my nice calculator. I don't want to think of this. So it's 7.2 divided by 24. That gives me 0.3. That's a strange number. So it's 0.3. Once you get it, just put it back here. So your function g of x is equal to 0.3 x minus 4 squared, and that's another nice 3 marks. Now let's look at the third part of. So the last part says the curves C1 and C2 meet in the first quadrant at the point P shown in figure 1. Okay, we'll look at it. Use algebra to find the coordinates of P. They ask you to find this point. Alright, since they intersect here, that means we can just set the equations to be equal. So the first equation was this nice equation, 1.2 x minus 4. So this is part C. So 1.2 x minus 4 should equal the other equation, which is 0.3 x minus 4 squared. So it's 0.3 x minus 4 squared. Before thinking of anything, cancel this with the square. X minus 4, and one of the 2x minus 4 here will cancel. So you'll have 1.2. Let me just move it up. 1.2x equal 0.3 x times x minus 4. Now, should we solve a quadratic here? I think we can. Let's first solve it without quadratic, and let's see if we will get a positive value. Now, what I will do is I'll just do 1.2. Let's just do quadratic. 1.2x is equal to 0.3x squared minus 0.3 times 4 is 1.2x. Move these. Why did I write x cubed? It's just x squared because it's x times x. Let's move these. Let's move this to the other side. So you will have 0.3x squared minus 1.2 here, and then there is another minus 1.2, so it's going to be minus 2.4x equals 0. Now we can just factorize x. Then you will have 0.3x minus 2.4 equals 0. That means we have x equals 0, which is not possible because obviously that point is not at x equals 0. So let's solve this equation now. There is an x here. So 0.3x equals 2.4 if we move it to the other side, and then divide by 0.3, divide by 0.3. That gives you x equal 2.4 divided by 0.3. That's x equal 8. To find the point, because they say find the point, you need to find the y value of p here. To find the y value, just substitute in any of the equations. I prefer the quadratic one, it's easy. So if we say y equals 1.2 x and x minus 4, let's substitute in this, it's easier. So you will have y equals 1.2 times 8 times 8 minus 4. Don't think of this a lot, just write it in the calculator. 1.2, 8 minus 4, which is 4. That gives you 38.4. That's your point, and that's your final answer. So it's 8 and 38.4, and that's your full marks for this question. I think it's 10 marks. Yeah, it was 10 marks question. That's very good. Let's look at the next question.